Today we're going to talk about dividing fractions. Suppose I have 4 cups of snack mix, and each serving of snack mix is a half cup. How many servings are there? Well, here's a drawing of 4 cups, and if every serving is half of a cup, then that means that I have 2 servings per cup. So in 4 cups, I have a total of 8 servings, or 4 divided by 1/2 equals 8. Remember that 1 can be represented many ways. For instance, 4/4, 7/7, 3/3, 8/8, 12/12, 5/5, all of these are equal to 1 whole. Well, when we want a fraction to equal 1 whole, we multiply it by its reciprocal. And a reciprocal is when you switch the numerator and the denominator. Let me show you some examples. 2/3, the reciprocal of 2/3 is when I switch the numerator and the denominator, 3/2, and that's what I actually can multiply 2/3 by to get 1 whole. 2/3 times 3/2, 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 2 is 6, and 6/6 is the same thing as 1 whole. Same with 4/5. The reciprocal of 4/5 is 5/4. I just reversed these, and then if I were to multiply, I would get 20/20, which is equal to 1 whole. Now, when I have a whole number, like the whole number 7, I first have to make it into a fraction before I find its reciprocal. 7 is the same thing as 7/1, and so the reciprocal of 7, or 7/1, is 1/7. Because 7 times 1 is 7, 1 times 7 is 7, and 7 divided by 7 equals 1 whole. So, remember, the reciprocal of a whole number is 1 over that number. Also, here's some vocabulary you need to make sure you have in mind. With division, the number that goes inside the box is called the dividend. And then the number that we divide into the dividend is called the divisor. And the answer is called the quotient. So remember the terms dividend, divisor, and quotient. When we divide fractions, we actually multiply the dividend by the reciprocal of the divisor. Now, an easier way to say that is keep the first fraction the same. So I'm going to come over here to 4. That's the dividend. And I'm going to keep it the same, although I am going to make it into a fraction by putting it over 1. So that's the only thing I would do there. If it was a fraction here, I would just keep it the same. Then I change the division sign to multiplication. So this division sign becomes a multiplication sign. And then I change the second fraction, which is the divisor, to its reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2/1. And then I multiply like normal. 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. And 8/1 is the same thing as 8 whole. Here's another one. 5/10 divided by 5/6. Keep the first fraction the same. That's the dividend. It stays 5/10. The division becomes multiplication, so I change the sign. And then the second fraction, the divisor, becomes its reciprocal, so I change 5/6 to 6/5. Then I multiply like normal. I'm going to see if I can cross-cancel first. I know that 5 goes into both 5 and 1, so 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 5 once. I also know that 2 goes into both 6 and 10. 2 goes into 6 3 times, 2 goes into 10 5 times. So now I have 1 times 3, which is 3, and 5 times 1, which is 5. So, again, kind of the same directions that I gave you on the last board. You keep the first fraction the same. You change the division to multiplication. Change the second fraction to its reciprocal. Multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and simplify if necessary. practice a few more. Let's just remember it like this. Keep, change, change. It's kind of a rhythmic way to remember. Keep, 8/9 stays 8/9. The division gets changed, and 1/3 gets changed. So I keep, change, change. And then I multiply. I am going to do some simplifying before I multiply. I know 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 9 3 times. 8 times 1 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. That's improper, so I need to change it to a mixed number. And 3 goes into 8 2 whole times with 2 left over. So I get 2 2/3. Let's practice a couple more. Keep, 3/8 stays 3/8. Change the division sign to multiplication. Change to the reciprocal of the second fraction to 12/7. And again, I'm going to simplify before I multiply. I know that 4 goes into both 8 and 12. 4 goes into 8 twice. 4 goes into 12 3 times. I have 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 7 is 14. 9/14 is simplified. Let's look at this problem. Originally, it said 2/3 divided by 5. The only thing I need to make sure to do before I keep, change, change is to make sure that I write this whole number as a fraction. 5 whole is 5/1. And then I keep 2/3 the same, change the division to multiplication, and change the second fraction to its reciprocal. Then I multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 5 is 15. And 2/15 is in simplest form. If you need to know why it works to multiply by the reciprocal when dividing fractions, you can look at my video here to find out the why.